Yeah, I had no idea. I'm literally like, oh,
Mhm.
you want me to watch a movie? Okay, I'm watching a movie. And as it progressed, it just seemed like somebody else until I got emotional, like, oh man, he's cheating on her too. Oh my God, I know what you're feeling. And just feeling that. And then it became like a dream, like I was her and I was going through it. And like that's when I became one with that person until they pushed me out of it. And I was like, oh my God, I thought that was me for a second. And I'm so glad to be here. And they
Yeah.
looked at me like, because you that is you. But I remember meditating and going within into I went into my subconscious, and in that I actually saw like a Tasmanian devil spirit like going around, and it came from me, and I was like, oh my gosh, I
No,
created
I did.
that. And
Mhm.
so yes, we create these thought forms, but also there are demons that are real, conscious, separate from us, trying to get us to mess up.
Yes, 100%. And the more people who understand this, like the people who hear this stuff and they just think, okay, it's either woo woo or they think it's like witchcraft and things like that. This is our reality. It really
Yeah.
is. The
Well,
good and the bad.
yes. Now I did do witchcraft for a little bit because I fell on my way. I'm telling you, that's why Jesus had to warn me. You know, if you continue on this path, you're gonna have to redo it.
Mm.
Um, so I used to light candles and stuff for money and different things, and it was the energy was like, ooh, I feel powerful. I know I'm creating my own life and just like all this stuff. Well, I was told if you burn the candles, you got to bury them properly or something. So I was saving them until I could bury them properly because I really wasn't that far into it. But my friends came over and they're like, man, your house feels haunted. And I'm like, yeah, I know. So then I'm like, figure out where it's at. So then we were going throughout my, the apartment, and we went into my closet and they're like, dude, something's wrong in here. And I'm like, really? And I was like, oh, check that corner where my candles were that I had burned. And they're like, this is the worst spot in your apartment. I can't even get in here. I'm like, wow, okay, I got to get rid of these
Wow.
things. So I stopped. Like, end of story.
Yes, wow.
And the other thing is, like, all throughout my apartment, I would hear like knocks and like bangs and just different stuff all the time. When I got rid of those candles, stopped doing that stuff, the noises stopped. So I was
Hmm.
like, okay, I must have been doing something wrong.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's portals. It's like we literally can open up portals for angels or demons. You know what I mean? Like for
Yep.
good or for bad. And just imagine if just on a regular basis, the average person, God only knows what's moving through your home, whether it's, lost souls or other dimensional beings or devils, angels, ascended masters. Like it's just like, a free fall, like a
Yeah.
train station. So
Yeah.
if you're sitting and doing something that is like that focused, then you might be opening even bigger portals. And that's like, we just really have to be careful about what we're doing. And
Yes.
I wanted to go in order, but like one of the biggest things about your story that I loved, and I was like, I have to have her on because of this, was you talking about the weed and how you felt that demonic presence because of the weed.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
and I put, I mean, you have alcohol, which is spirits. It's the reason why they call it spirits.
Mm-hmm.
You have prescription drugs. Like people don't understand, like there it's not just, okay, well, I've never drank or smoked or done weed or whatever, blah blah. A lot of these prescription drugs become street drugs at
Yeah.
some point. So we have to
I,
keep in mind that when your doctor's giving you something, and not to say that you're just going to know, like there's not a book where you can say, oh, okay, I can't take this particular prescription drug because it's going to open a portal. Like there's no
yeah.
book like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's trial and error. You have to start to learn to feel yourself, and to feel, to know energy and vibration. You got to become sensitive.
Yep.
When
Yep.
you're a sensitive and you take a drug, a quote unquote prescription drug or something like that, you'll know if it's a good feeling or it's a feeling like you start feeling creepy or hearing things knocking and something's off, you know?
Yes. Yes.
So I just think that people need to be much more cognizant of that. And I mean, I ended a whole relationship because of marijuana. Like that's how much of a problem it's always been, like this, and no one really could understand it because it's such a like kind of a mainstream thing. But it
Yeah.
really made me feel like my whole vibe was just going completely down. I never
Yeah.
it felt uneasy.
Yeah.
it's supposed to relax you. It always made me feel agitated. I've never taken it, but just secondhand smoke has always agitated me to the
Yeah,
point where I'm like, I cannot be near this smell or this substance.
yeah,
And so for you to say that, it just kind of like, I mean, like I said, left a relationship where I love the person because of this drug. So to hear that this is what was surrounding that drug, it made me feel like, okay, there's a reason why I was feeling this strongly about this, you know?
yes. It's definitely real. I remember because I was still battling in my mind about everything. My friends were like, "Weed's fine. It's fine. Just enjoy it. You drink. Why not have weed?" And I'm just like, I don't know. Yeah, because I remember my pre-birth and I didn't want anything to do with it really. But I ended up smoking again. Obviously, I'm torn between staying with this guy and trying to fit in and smoke with them and all that stuff. So I smoked, and everyone else is just having normal conversations. And I'm over here in a spiritual realm, like, oh my God. And so I'm just trying to be, I'm normal, but I'm not normal. Um, I remember they were laughing at me, the demons, and it was a really dark, echoey, we have you now, you're coming with us, you're going to hell, you're mine, all these things. And I was just like, I can't smoke ever again. And every like I kept looking at everybody like, yeah, I'm fine, because everyone was
Mm,
just acting normal. Like it didn't affect them at all. They couldn't feel
yeah.
any of the negativity. And I don't know how or why they didn't, but, or maybe they just dismissed it. It
Mm,
wasn't even part of their reality, but it was a definite part of mine. And so what I was trying to do was, okay, I'm going to get away from you. And so I said, you don't have me. I'm never smoking again, which I did a
mm.
couple of times, like I told you, but um,
Mm,
what happened was I had two lights. One was a light and it had darkness in the middle and it was like a vacuum. And the other one was light in the middle and dark on the outside. And I'm like, oh my God, which way is Jesus? I don't know. And it was like a vacuum. Every time I looked at it, it was getting closer and closer. And then I would be feeling fearful. So then I'm like looking away and then I'm feeling pulled toward the other one. And I'm like, I can't die. I don't want to overdose. And I just kept spinning around and then hearing the demons. And I'm literally, so I'm seeing that stuff going on with my third eye, the fight, the battle in my mind, while simultaneously looking at my friends. So I'm going through this and everyone else is just talking normal. And I'm like, oh my God, I'd
mm.
never want to do this again. This is horrible. Like I see the battle in every way and I don't know who to trust anymore. Like that, I was in that vibe and I couldn't trust anybody. It was all deceitful.
And you're
So I
saying
do know
trust the humans around you or trust the energies around you?
the energies around me, the
Mm,
energy. Um, yeah, the humans were fine. They weren't doing anything. They were kind of ignoring me. They were just in their own little thing, talking about whatever. I don't even remember the conversations. I just remember the struggle, like the big struggle for me. I just
wow.
wanted to get out. I wanted to sober up. I wanted it to be done. I just wanted out of this little vacuum. It was like I was spinning in my head. It was like dizziness. But it was this real spiritual thing. I know it was.
A battle.
Yeah, it was. It absolutely was. And so,
Mm.
I mean, they were battling for my soul. They were trying to make me so upset about my life. It was pointless. You're not working. You're living with your mom. The father of your children doesn't see you. Like all these things, and like, and the guy that you're with doesn't want you, and you may as well die. Just all these things, and I'm
And this
just
is
like,
how they talk. This is how they talk. I try to explain to people there are times when it might be your thought, like you might be pessimistic, but you'd be surprised how often it is one of those beings and you just can't see them. That is how they talk. And
yes,
they literally get in your head and some people get confused and think that they're thinking this. No, that is something trying to get you
yes,
to do some
especially if
crazy
it's a
stuff.
repeated thought that you just can't, like you're doing your own thing and then like, well, nobody loves you. What? Yeah. And then nobody loves you. It's like they're doing that, you know?
Mm. And sometimes you just say, "Is that really true?" And you're like, "Nope." And then you realize that's not me thinking that.
Yeah.
That's that other. That's that hindering demon.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
out of here.
Yeah.
Um, and it's so weird that, and this is what gets me. What you're saying right now, what questions that comes to my mind is that, you have people who are sensitive, and I consider myself that, and I know of others, many others, but like you said, you're sitting there going through almost like a battle for your soul
Yeah.
over just marijuana, and then you have people who are doing like so I literally, and you just recently, I mean, there are people who like try to go out of their way to find every sin that they can find. Like what
Oh
can I
yeah.
do bad and how can I hurt somebody tomorrow? Like literally go out of their way.
That
And they're
reminds
not they're not they're not paying any mind to this. They're not having this turmoil at all.
Well,
And it
they're
just
not.
makes
They're just going about their business. Yeah. And
and
and it doesn't affect them at all. It's strange. I don't know why. I really don't understand why they don't have that inner turmoil. Like my friend, for instance, the one that was smoking, she would make jokes like, "We're all gonna go to hell because we're smoking weed." And I'm like, I wouldn't joke about that. Like I didn't say anything to her, but I was just like, I wouldn't joke about that. An interesting thing, I was at a bar maybe a year ago, and I was in the hallway, and I literally heard some guy was passing out in the bathroom, and I'm like, what was happening? Somebody was like, hey man, and so I was in that hallway, and all of a sudden I felt a spirit pass me with two demons on its side carrying it past me, and I was like, I think that was his soul, and I think he was going to hell,
oh
and he
boy.
died in the bathroom, and we didn't know it until later, like a 30 minutes later, when they carried his body out. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And that happened in Elkhart. But I felt his soul pass me, and I felt terrible because I could see the demons carrying him on. Like it just went real quick. But I,
Yeah,
I was like, I think he died. I mean, they literally showed me that he died, and he did.
that is amazing, but and it's terrifying at the
Yeah.
same time. So here's where it gets confusing because it's like you have people who have these experiences where, and it's not to say that the question is ultimately, and this is the question that we all have and why we have so many religions out there, is is the reality after this reality, is it a stagnant and real and concrete thing with rules, regulations, and like, or is it where some people literally just say, oh, heaven is what you think it will be, or there's no hell unless you believe there is, like there's people who just feel like the power is solely in your mind and your ability to create, and that all this other stuff is only there if you decide that it's there.
I think it's concrete because if I could have willed Earth to be there and I could have flown to it, I would have totally, and I could not. I did not know where
Hmm.
Earth was. Um, I wasn't like after I found out about that life, I could not visit any of my previous relatives or anything. I literally let the life go. And then I was thinking, okay, where's heaven? I want my heaven.
Hmm.
That never showed up. So like I literally kept thinking, okay, I'm with Jesus, I'm fine for right now, but I'm waiting until I get to do my thing.
Hmm.
So I was trying to create it essentially, I guess is what I'm saying, and I never could because I was told I have to go back. Now I don't know if it's because I was in some kind of different holding area or what. I don't know even if that man wanted the greenery and the trees. I don't know. I just know his vibe matched it.
Hmm.
But it is interesting though how he didn't even see any of us. He didn't even see Jesus there. Like he just went right past all of us. So I mean,
Yeah.
I guess I feel like the argument goes both ways. He was so dead set on his heaven that he went there, but he felt like he deserved that. Now he might have, from what I think, everybody has some sort of life review. He may have had it in that place where where he went. I don't know.
It's just so weird that you even saw him. Like I said, I'm saying people don't understand.
Yeah,
Like your story, your experiences are gold mine. They really are. Like we could go on this forever. I swear. Like it's because it's like yes, why would you see him if you were in two totally different places? There are people all day long. I mean, not to be, morbid, but people dying every second. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So out of all these people who are going to this experience, for you, it's not like he was the only one. It were probably like dozens just flying out of the earth and
yeah,
dozens flying in. For
yeah.
you to see this one person, to me, there's no accidents and there's no, so there's a
Right.
reason why you had that experience, like why you were allowed to see him and then he didn't see you, and why you saw that he had that straight, it either is that okay, the world where this being and all this stuff was false light and they're just soul trap and you should have just looked forward and made it, or it's saying this could be you if you learn this lesson and get through this
That
life, and it really was, it
that's
could
the
be
one
that.
I'm thinking it
That's the
is. If
one you're
you learn
thinking.
this lesson, you'll go right where he went because that's where I want to go.
Yes.
Literally, I really think so.
And a
Hmm.
lot of people see the green grasses in the garden, etc. So I mean, I don't know that it's just him. It just sounds like heaven. It might change, but it starts off at least looking like a beautiful garden, or space.
Yeah, that's what I saw. Like I only saw like a field, like grass mostly, and some trees out.
Hmm.
But I didn't see anything else. Like I didn't see any rivers or flowers or anything. I just
Hmm.
remember being a little angry. Hey, I want to go there. How come he went there and I can't? So
Hmm. And now before I forget this question, because this is something that you didn't mention before, and it's a great story. So that well, great but interesting story about the guy who you saw or felt his spirit going out with the being dragged by the demons.
yes,
The question here is, so say this guy who say he lived a bad life. We don't know who he is, but let's just say that for him to be dragged by demons, then let's assume that's the case. And I mean, let's also not assume that he went to hell, because I mean, I've heard of NDEs where they are being dragged, they literally leave their body, and all of a sudden there's demons on them. So it's like
yeah,
if you're living a certain life and maybe those demons are already around because of the life you're living, they have
yeah,
easy access, they jump on it. They say, okay, we got one. But before they can go anywhere, there have been situations, just so that people don't completely freak out, where there is an angel or a powerful being that will step in and stop them from what they're doing. Like they will take you. So I've heard of quite a few of those. So not to say that just because you saw him being dragged away, that guy, that soul actually made its way to hell. It could have, or it could have also been, if it said Jesus or God or yelled out whatever, it might have been saved. Because that's another thing that a lot of people say is that, and again, no one knows, because the people who are telling these stories didn't die fully, right? So who really, really know? But they say that there is a hell, that there is that bad experience, but that it is temporary. It's like once you, and that would only make sense too, right? Because if it's going on forever, how do you ever get out of it and learn your lesson and return to God? Like it has to have a end date, a point when it does end. Although it might feel like an eternity, because time doesn't generally exist outside of this realm.
yeah, it
Um,
doesn't.
so say for instance, so say you have because okay, so how do I ask this question? Because I'm trying to figure out exactly. So for you, it was okay. I feel like I might, not you, but your previous life. I feel like I might deserve hell. So let me do whatever he's saying, so I don't have to. So it was like let me return back and live another life that's similar, and then learn that lesson. So for
Well,
the guy, okay,
true to an extent, but I meant like let me do whatever I need to do right now so I can go to heaven because I didn't even remotely think I would live again. Not at all. I thought I was there. So like let
mhm.
me do whatever Jesus needs me to do. Oh sure, you want me to observe this life and judge it for you, no problem. You know,
Ah,
so I'm not
okay,
thinking I'm going to have to go back to earth and live any more lessons or anything. I'm thinking, let me just do what you want me to do right now so that way I can stay here and be in peace. No problem.
okay. And so that's a whole a different attitude as well. Like, I mean, for you, you're saying that you don't think that you had any other choice. Like, it really was, I am subservient to this being, and that
Yeah.
I have to do what he says. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so for the guy, let's just say for this soul that was being dragged out, that overdose or whatever. Why, the question is why? Because we're assuming a lot by saying, thinking that he was dragged to hell. It's a big
Yeah.
assumption there. But
Yeah.
let's say that he was. Why was that soul not given the chance to, live a different life?
I from what I know, I guess he and his wife like did heroin and sold it or something. So it doesn't sound like they were living the life that they were meant to. But I mean, I'm not trying to make any assumptions or anything like that. I just know
Yeah.
what I've heard and what I saw with my third eye. Like they literally, I felt it when they approached, and I was like, oh my, like that guy must have died. Like I was praying for him to not have died and for him to come back to life if he did, and for not forgive him, let him go, let
Yeah.
him go. Jesus, I was praying for this man.
Yeah. I mean, and there's no answer to that because it's all assumption, but I'm just saying, like, for people who are listening, it's like, okay, on one hand, you have a person who might have lived a life very materialistic or this or that, whatever.
Yeah.
Are there different levels? Like, if somebody is like a mass murderer or a drug dealer or something like that and purposely hurting people, is it just like, no, this soul has to go through hell in order to like burn through some of this stuff, and then they have the chance to come back to, and this is just questions, come back and try to do another life as opposed to that guy's body, I mean, soul leaving his body and then going into another life to try to figure it out
Well,
again.
I've heard near death experiences where a lot of people have gone to hell for what they've done, and ways they've lived. But for me, I really think that God knew, as I finished off with my previous life, watching my life review, and I said I could do better. I think Jesus knew I meant it and that I would do better if given another chance. But I didn't have
Mm.
any clue that I'd get another chance. Um, for the people that have gone to hell and gotten out, they have completely changed their life. They are not angry, they are more forgiving, all the things that are needed to live a life that's good and in the light. So I'm thinking because they went there and they knew, or God knew that they would change, maybe that's why they got out. I don't know, because I'm just,
Yeah, we're just speculating, but I mean,
yeah.
so it does sound like there's different avenues. Like it's not like a one size fits all type thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So the other thing that I thought was very interesting, because I was writing this question as you were saying it. So this we definitely got to talk about this for a moment. So
Okay.
I've noticed a lot of times when people are in this, let's just say waiting like pre-heaven space, whatever. I've read a few that are similar, where it seems like the earth is always to the back and to the left of them. Very
Yeah.
weird, very
Yes.
weird.
That's what, when I came in, I guess it was over here. I mean, really, that's where it was. But I
Yes.
didn't know. All I knew is like, okay, you guys are here, and talk to the guide, and where is the earth? But I really think it was there. And then when I kept talking, or I went forward and I talked to the guides and then Jesus and all that, the life review, the life preview, and there it was. Like I had to turn around and there it was.
Mhm.
So very interesting. Yes.
And then as you were saying that, the first thought that came to my mind, because I have a lot of theories about the moon and what it really is and what's happening there. But one thing, outside of what I believe, a lot of people who believe in the soul trap believe that there is something on the moon that is whether it's a trap or not, but that the actual management of what's happening with the soul and the soul returning into the earth sphere to be reincarnated is on the moon. And so when you were saying that you were going back, you're like, I felt like I was close. Like I was either in between the earth and the moon or I was on the moon. And as
Yeah.
soon as you said that, I was like, yes, this is like, this makes sense. This is what people were saying. So of course, this is a big conjecture. It's not to say that this is where that moment in that space is. But a lot of people who have either out of bodied or, NDE or whatever, say that whatever this, I don't know what you'd even call it, but like way station, for the
Yeah.
soul before it goes back into reincarnation, it is located on the moon.
Yeah.
So
I,
very
I do
cool.
kind of wonder about that because when I saw the earth, I could see the whole thing. It was round, it was a globe. That's what I saw.
Mm.
And I mean it was big enough that I could see around it. It wasn't in my face and all that until I flew with Jesus. So I'm
Mm.
saying I was far enough away. I would assume I was somewhere near the moon or on the moon or in the moon or something. Because I
Mm.
remember it was like darkness surrounding Jesus and I, and we were exiting something to get to the earth. So it was almost like unless they revealed it or opened it up, I wouldn't have seen the earth. Because, like I
Mm.
said too, when I was going on the pier and I went to turn around and say, "Wish me luck," it was gone. Like I was on the outside of that thing, and it was black on the inside and on the outside. But that's
Black
why
on
I'm
the
saying, like,
inside. Explain that
hmm?
because I'm a little confused. I love that moment because it's very weird, but what do you mean it was black on the inside, on the outside? Like the wormhole or tunnel or what was black?
Wherever I was, like, okay, when I was looking at my thing, I saw the white clouds, right? I'm surrounded by the white clouds. But when Jesus and I turn around to see the earth, I feel like I'm in some room where it's complete darkness. I would say it was like, if you ever saw Star Trek holodeck,
Okay.
um, like a room that they can manipulate, because that's when we got back from Earth, Jesus said, "You'll be born under the sign of Aries." And I looked up and I saw the real actual zodiac sign of
Oh,
Aries.
so kind of
But
like
I
a
don't,
what do they used to call it? Kind of, what was that thing called? Oh my God. When you used to go like for school visits, you would go to this
oh,
thing and they had it's a
yeah,
conservatory or something. I have no idea what the name is right now,
yes,
but I know what you're talking about because they can do that too. So that's what I'm saying. This is why it kind of freaks me out because on one hand, I am not being like negative or whatever like that. I want it to be the beautiful unconditional love and
I
Jesus and the
know.
love God, whatever. But I've heard, like I said, I'm researching and I am seeing a lot of stuff that kind of ties to extraterrestrial, and some of this stuff could be holograms for real, and it could just be
I know.
manipulation because we're in a space where we don't remember who we are. So it's very easy to manipulate us.
Well, what concerns me too, like I grew up Christian, so this whole memory was like really tearing at me. And I told some people, and they're like, "Oh, it's all demonic. You need to forget that," because a born under the sign of Aries. Aries is horoscope. Horoscope.
Yeah,
So
astrology. Yeah.
yeah, so it wasn't good. But I mean, that's what I saw. But
Yeah.
I wonder too, because I kind of wonder how come I got to fly with Jesus to Earth, but as soon as I said I'm ready, like ready to go, I'm so excited, I'm boom back where we came from. I didn't get to. I was like, I'm gonna find out where I'm at. Like I was doing my absolute best to remember everything. I
Yeah.
kept telling myself, you got to remember, but I also kept saying, don't say it so loud or think it so loud that Jesus or anyone else hears you. You know, I was trying to still
I
be my little
think that
secret
way,
self.
but I don't think it works. But I do hope that we have that ability because like when I start seeing how many people are becoming, smart to like astral projection and OBEs and stuff like that, it's like where's the privacy? Like even now, like I don't feel like I have any privacy, but like really that people are just watching you do all these things. It's like, come on, like back
Yeah,
up.
yeah. And I don't know how often people or spirits visit or anything like that, but I'm sure that they do. Um, but yeah, the privacy and the thoughts, they can hear all of it. And when I was shown myself, my like what I look like in that mirror, they had said you'll forget everything, and I remember saying remember, like to myself, remember.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I
Awesome.
think I'm wondering if that power, if that made me remember. I don't know, because they did say I would forget, which I
And
did over time, but like I recalled it.
yeah, and I mean, I've heard this a million times too, where they have the experience, they are purposely, like sometimes even the next day it is completely wiped from their memory. There are some who go through a river, and all this stuff is kind of in the Bible. So the Bible, again, like I said, I'm not Christian, but the Bible is very important. It really is. Um,
Yeah.
just as a way, like there's stuff in it that, without question, is connected to who we are, and it's probably a puzzle. Like if you can really read and dissect it and decipher it, it probably has a lot of even more information that we can just see from reading it. But
Hmm.
just to make sure that people are clear, like you really should probably, if you haven't read the Bible, read it, just so that you can get read between the lines, if anything. But
Yeah.
yeah, so there's people who say that they go through that river and they forget. But whoever these beings are, and let's just hope, and I hope against hope that it is what they say they are, that they are benevolent, that they are of the creator, because if not, the amount of power that they have is like a bit terrifying. It really is. So
Well, I do know when I saw Jesus, I felt love, power, knowledge, all of it in his
mhm,
eyes. So I felt like he had his best intentions for me. It was when he said, "That's you," after I had the life preview that I had no idea was my life. After
mhm,
he said, "That's you," I felt like he literally told me, "Go to hell," like literally, because
mhm,
I didn't want to live that life. And that's when I felt, where am I really? What's going on here? Why do I need to reincarnate? I am not wanting to do this. This is horrible, horrific. What's wrong here? This is nothing. I was against all of it. I was freaking out. And that's when he said, "You'll like the mother," to calm me down. So, I mean, even I have my curiosities and doubts about things, even though I interacted with Jesus himself.
yeah. But I mean, it's because of the fact that, like I said, even we in our natural state, it seems like we are shapeshifters. We have the ability with our mind to create how we look. I've heard this too many times to not believe that is true, you know? And it does also sound like there are extraterrestrials that have this technology. Like, remember, he was showing you like the cell phone. I mean, not to say that it's that. I'm
Yeah,
just saying that. So for people who, believe that, I'm going to make sure I'm speaking to it so that they understand, like,
sure.
okay, I'm not the only one thinking this could be, because it
Yeah,
really could be exactly what you thought it was. But if it isn't, then I feel like we need to be aware of that as well. Like, we can't just like I said, with a lot of these NDEs, especially the ones that I put on my show, I believe you had that experience without
yeah,
question. I don't doubt it for a second. We need to just make sure that it is what it appears to have been.
yeah,
Um, especially for us as human beings as we move forward, because it's like, if let's just say that it's not benevolent and we are in this kind of trap under like quote unquote superior beings who are kind of manipulating our ignorance, us being under this amnesia, then eventually we need to get out. We need to figure it
yeah.
out,
I agree.
and that
I
and that
yeah,
that goes according to the matrix idea, that whole idea of like, there's levels to this, that we're, even when we get out of this, that we are fighting a battle, a spiritual battle, or Star Wars, or whatever you want to call it. But then there's a possibility that it really is just all about growth. And like, the reason why we get upset is just like you said, like a little child who like wants something more than they can have, and then they're not giving it, and then they have a tantrum. So there's always a possibility that it's just that there are rules and regulations, and then we as baby spirits growing up are just kind of having tantrums or whatever. So it could be either or. But I think
yeah,
that ultimately we have to, like, for my foundation, so I can get through the day, especially since I do go into a lot of different diving deep and weird stuff. I have to believe that there is a creator above all. And I feel like, from what I've read, I've gotten enough examples and proof of that is one of the things I don't let shake too much. I do believe that there is a creator that is most powerful above all, and that ultimately we are okay, even if there is this big, scenario that
yeah,
we have to get through, whatever. There's levels to it, and it might just be all for growth. That even in the figuring out what we're doing here and what's happening, and even in that fight, whatever, there will be growth, and that ultimately, as souls, we cannot be hurt. As humans, yes, we're frail, we can get hurt, we can get whatever, but as souls, it's all just a lot of experiences, growth, growth, growth. And ultimately, God is just kind of watching us in the playground, beating each other up and saying, they'll be fine. you know,
yeah, yeah.
just put a band-aid on
Well,
it.
the one thing I would say is I felt I could do better or perform better, treat people better. So I think if you go through life and you really try your absolute best with all the best intentions, I don't think there's anything to worry about because you did perform at your best.
Mhm.
So when I was asked by Jesus, what do you think of that life? And I said, she had a good heart. I was trying to say, yeah, she meant well, but then I just knew that I could have done better.
Mhm.
Um, so I kind of wonder if I would have been able to say I did the best I could, what would that lead me to? Would I have to come back? Would I be able to go? I don't know, but
Yeah.
I'm trying my best.
I do feel like if I were managing this and I saw a soul who was that tied to, the materialistic and all that kind of stuff, I would feel also like, okay, you can't really, you're not ready for heaven. Like, you can't go in there because you're not going to play nice. Like, you're just focused on this. And forget even that, like, not even about a judgment thing, but just like, you literally were asking and feeling like, I need to go back here. Like, just putting the power back into you, like you said, you felt like you could do better. And
Oh yeah,
so that, because God is much more wise than we could ever think to be, it could be like, it's like, that person who you're playing chess with, and they're 20, moves ahead, and it just knew, okay, this soul needs to go back and have this experience again, and she'll figure it out. And it sounds like you figured it out. It sounds like you're in a
yeah.
place right now where you like, yep, I got it. Chat,
I
chat.
definitely, yeah, I feel way better now. And I feel way more healed. And the father of my children, he still doesn't see the kids or anything, but I've forgiven him. I've let it go. I don't hold an attachment. Um,
Mhm.
I just, I'm releasing it all.
So,
So,
and
and
quickly, um, at one point when you're with Jesus, you're realizing, okay, just from your past life, you know that, okay, Jesus is real. I didn't really know that. So now I need to do whatever he, kind of says in order to get, not to go to hell. Now, if
Mhm.
you think now a Buddhist, a Muslim, a Sikh, like other other religions that probably maybe have no connection to Jesus, that person standing before him, what in your gut instinct would be the situation? Like, is it automatically, oh, you didn't know me, you're going to hell, or is he still just dealing with them on a soul basis and what their deeds were?
I'm thinking it's soul basis just because that's what happened to me. I knew of Jesus, I knew of church, I knew of the Bible, but I was seriously focused on myself.
Hmm.
So, um, like I was expecting, oh, I'm there's life after death. There is more than just being a human.
Hmm.
So when I went up there and I saw Jesus, he didn't say, well, you never knew me. He didn't say that. Now I know the Bible says that, and I'm not going to say like, I'm just saying what I experienced. So he didn't say you never knew me. Um, you know, get away from me. He he was just there,
Hmm.
and he knew he had to calm me down, and then we could proceed to looking at my life experience.
Okay.
But yeah, I know it's kind of off subject, but one night I was sleeping and uh my boyfriend Chris, I turned to because I was uncomfortable in bed and I turned toward him and then I saw like a Chinese man, as weird as that is. He was super lit up. He had a red vest on and he had a gold bowl in his hand and a paintbrush. And he was awkwardly painting Chris in his chest area. And I mean, he was a big man. He had rolls here and a big belly, and he was holding the bowl and he painting Chris sideways, like, but he didn't even look at me once. And so I looked it up, and that's Happy Buddha. Like I looked up like Buddha because I was thinking it's a Chinese man, but it's the Happy Buddha symbol. And I was like, wow.
Mm.
And that was a real person, I guess. But he was very lit up. Like you ever see neon lights or LED lights or something like that's what he looked like with a red
Wow.
vest and orange skin. It was orange. And he
Mm.
was with a gold bowl. And the weird thing is when I looked him up, he had the bowl and I don't know if he had anything else, but he had the bowl and I was like, oh my gosh, that's what I saw,
Hmm.
because obviously,
Wow.
yeah, obviously I'm Christian based, so I don't look up. I was literally looking up Buddha. I'm like, he wasn't thin. Like he was a
Mhm.
fat.
This proves that these things are real. Like you said, you had to look it up. You had no idea, like, what am I looking at right now?
Yeah.
Like, what is this?
And I literally, when I saw it, I was like, and I was like so excited. And I said, what the? And he faded away. He faded. I said, what the? And I was like, damn it, if I would have been quiet, like, would he have stayed? I don't know. But I
Yeah.
literally couldn't help it. I said, what the? And Chris just slept through the whole thing. And I was just like, what was it? I've never seen anything like it since. But he was literally neon. It was really cool. But I was trying to say, like, I mean, I don't know about religions or whatever. Chris is definitely not a Buddhist. He's not anything like, I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
why was that guy doing that? And I don't know
Yeah.
what the painting of the gold, but it was around his chest area
Yeah.
that he was painting. So I don't know if it was giving him luck or cleaning his heart or what he was doing or healing him.
Wow.
Um, but I know that people do believe in Buddha, which I mean, obviously that was a different character, like because the
Yeah.
regular Buddha looks different. But I'm just saying, like, I do think that these beings are real because I literally saw the
Yeah.
entity. So,
Like that was one of the last things that when I was looking at your previous interviews that came up, and I was like, I wish I understood what this was all about. Like, I just say off the top of my head, like, I mean, it sounds like an ascended master. Like, there are people who see, and I don't know her name, but like this another female, ascended master, and people who see, obviously Jesus, and who see, um, uh, some of the yogis,
Yeah.
and things like that. So I feel like there really is a point where you become enlightened. That's why I love that you keep saying he was lit up, because it just sounds like he was enlightened, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And people say this is why it's so important that we do, besides, worrying about going to hell, or trying to get into heaven, people say that through our acts, our thoughts, our words, usually those three things, that we are, you know, we are enlightening ourselves. We're actually building up our spirit, growing our spirit. And that's
Yeah.
why, people who go on the other side sometimes say, okay, I saw a lot of lights, and we all were lights, but there were some that were much brighter and more powerful than others.
Yeah.
And that's what you would kind of put the ascended masters, you put them at that level.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it also kind of shows that maybe religion really does not matter. The religions that we have on this planet are just not, they don't really,
Yeah.
translate past this, because we're all just spirits, and we're all connected. We're all kind of brothers and sisters no matter what.
Yeah.
Um, and I like the idea, because like gold is very important. Very important. Like you hear it a lot. You hear about it when you talk about the Anunnaki, and why they came to Earth, and you hear about the power of gold on a spiritual basis, turning lead to gold and stuff like that. So to be painting gold for an ascended master to paint your heart space gold, I can't see anything negative about that. It sounds like a good thing overall.
Well, and since then he's been healing and working, and like, not that he's spiritual at all, but like I can see his actions are less of the self and more for the family, if that makes sense.
Beautiful. That is awesome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's like whether people are sensitive or they're seeing these spirits or not, the effects are still there. Like
Yeah.
we're all living in this big, and I'm saying fishbowl. I don't mean the earth, fishbowl as in like existence.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're touched by angels and mocked by demons, and whether you know it or not, it's still going to have an effect.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So but it's just awesome, because you clearly have that ability to see,
Oh yeah.
and to hear, and it's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let me keep going through, because I have a lot, and if I
Sorry.
get to a point where you're just tired, then stop me, because I will keep asking questions to the end of time. But um all right, so when you were what type of body were you in during that whole experience in pre-heaven?
Um, I don't know if I had feet or not because I wasn't really walking anywhere. It was a will, and it was like I need to go forward. I didn't pay attention to my legs.
Hmm.
And from what I remember, I do know Jesus had feet when I initially saw him, but when we were on the road, I don't really remember because I just remember thinking the car was coming, and I'm hearing it, and I saw the lights. But for me, I know I had hands. I know I had
So
like a white gown, I think. I feel like it was like just see-through, kind of bluish. That was for me.
oh my God, this you don't
So,
understand how many people say this. Yes.
oh really? Because it wasn't skin color at all, but Jesus looked like skin color regular human. So that's
Wow.
where I think I paid the most attention to him. Everyone else kind of faded off. I don't really remember them very well. I remember Jesus.
Wow. Oh my God. Like
Yeah.
I have heard so many things where people, whether it's an NDE or OBE, they look back on, or they look at their hands, and they'll say it's like maybe white, like a very bright white kind of light, but then they say it's blue, like a bluish, like either outline or bluish color. I've heard
Yes, and it
this
was
so
kind of,
many times.
yeah, and it was kind of see-through, but I knew I could have my hands, but I just didn't really care about them as much. I couldn't do, there was nothing to pick up, nobody to, I wasn't hugging people either at all
Mhm.
at that point. So,
Yeah. And I've also heard that it's kind of like with our intention, that we have the power from thought to do it. So sometimes you can just be in an orb if you're not caring what kind of body, or you can
yeah,
start to manifest like an astral body so that you can see hands and, things like
yeah.
that.
Well,
So
I think
wow.
for me, I think because of how attached I was to that earth body, I was expecting to have arms. I don't know about legs because I remember, just getting somewhere fast, going to the guide, looking at the clipboard. Like I literally was like, oh, is my name there? You know? Because I'm like, it's there, right? Like I can go back to earth. No. So
Wow.
yeah.
Um,
And I do
okay.
remember, I remember going like this when Jesus told me, because I'm like, he heard everything I said, and I'm like, stop, stop. I remember literally going like that, like stop it, to myself.
Mhm. Wow. Um, And I mean, some things like this is not really a question, but I just remember when you said that you asked Jesus why you had to go back, and he said you're the only one who can do it, and
Yeah,
even you were confused by that. Like, what does that
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So that's
I
still something that's like you don't really know.
I remember asking him about it, and I do remember talking at some point. I do remember he showed me the earth and all the lights lighting up on it, and we're all connected. And I
Hmm.
remember asking him, "How come I have to do it?" And he said, "You're the only one that can do it." And I think at that point is when I agreed and I said, "You know what, I'll do it." And you know I will. You know I'll tell everybody. I remember saying, "You know I'll tell everybody." You know I will. That's what I said. And I think it's about this, or that Jesus isn't. He also said people complicate things. It's everything is so much more simpler than what people make it to be. And I was just like, man, like I felt that, you know. I think he does hurt because I remember him uh like feeling down about the earth, and I do think that my message about my pre-birth is something that would help people know that he's real, know that he really did die. Because I said I saw his marks. I just can't remember whether they were in his palm. I remember, oh my God, you died. You know, like plus I think that in a way I don't want to stare at his wounds. That's kind of rude, you know? Like if somebody actually had an injury, you don't want to stare at it. It was kind of like that.
Mm.
But yeah, he said I was the only one that can do it. And I kind of felt that like I would be the only one, but I still don't understand why. Um, I've had some theories because of how many deja vus I've had in this life. I kind of wonder, did I actually, me personally, live this life before? And Jesus is like, oh my God, we got to put her in something else, and then we're gonna try that life again later. I don't know, but because of how many deja vus I've had, it could have also been because of my life preview. When I saw things like Will in his leather coat, you know, I saw him wearing that, and so when I saw him in real life, I was like, "What the heck?" You know, like I've seen this before, and I know it means something, but I don't know what it means. So
Yeah. And that was something that stuck with me too. Like when you said that if you hadn't learned your lesson at that I guess apartment complex or something like that with the friend, that you would have to repeat that life.
and
And
that was about the drugs. For
the
sure
drug.
about the drugs.
Yeah.
Yes, because I started like I slowly was smoking weed to fit in with my friends, and then it started to be like, well, I'm trying to get spiritual truth here because sometimes I can do readings, like energetically connect to somebody. I don't use tarot and stuff. I have used tarot, but I just find that I'm better off doing it by myself. Um, because I can get into memories, thoughts, feelings, and I can really feel it, and I can describe somebody like a bedroom. You know, I freaked out my one friend. She said, "Did you go in his room?" I'm like, "No, I've never been in there." But I described her boyfriend's room so much, she was just like, I'm like,
About to lose a friend.
so it's like remote viewing. But
Yeah.
uh, I'm sorry, I'm drifting. I don't know what I just know I do reading. Oh, because sometimes when I do readings, you know, when I was smoking weed, I was getting right to it, but I think I was using demonic energy. I don't know because they can do that, you know. So all I know is I was smoking more to get answers, to do readings, and so when I was at her house and I was smoking, all of a sudden it was like I looked up at the apartment building and I remembered her being there, and I remember Jesus being near me saying, if you continue down this path, you're going to have to redo this life. And I was like, I got to go. I just got to leave. I
Mm.
said, my daughter's at home by herself. I got to go. I forgot all about it, like as if I'm sorry, you know. But yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like deja vu a lot was for a lot of people it is the preview, like kind of remembering the preview as it's happening.
Yep.
And I mean, we said, why is he saying that you're the only one who can do it, whatever it means? But
Yeah.
you clearly have, quote unquote paranormal or psychic, or super abilities,
Yeah.
And this is
Yeah.
something that most people get when after they have an NDE, but you're the very weird case where you didn't have an NDE. You had a full death experience, you came back,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you still have that connection. So that's very different. Just want to
Yeah.
mention that. All right. Let me see what else. So another thing I wanted to mention was that, part of what you were kind of upset about when you knew you had to come back to the life is that you weren't really given choices. Like at one point, you were even shown your future body, and you realize that the eyes were the same. So that says a lot because people say the eyes are the window to the soul. So
Yeah.
that made me really wonder, like, are our eyes the same no matter what race or whatever that we are when we come back, or sex? It would be very interesting to see that, if we could see if our eyes pretty much stay pretty much the same no matter what life we live.
Yeah.
But you weren't given the choice. Whereas I've had, NDE interviewees like Aaron Green, who was given the choice of every minute detail, like every
That was
tiny
so cool. I wish.
detail. And I had even asked him at one point. I said, "Okay, why do you think that you were given that ability?" And he just said that sometimes it might be on the level of the soul, or like depending on what, but that some might be able to do that, and then you kind of have to go up to a certain level, and then eventually you can, make the choice whether or not to reincarnate. And I've heard this before too, like with like ascended masters, they can come back and forth if they want to or not. They can stay out of, incarnation for, there's no time,
The
but
reason I
like
couldn't
eternities.
was because I have had struggles with this personal body. Am I pretty? Am I not? You know what I mean? Like my friends and people have told me that I am, but it's my internal struggle. In my last life, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm whatever. I look great. No big deal. Why is my husband cheating on me? I look as good as I possibly can. I work out, I make money, and I look good. Why is he even bothering to cheat on me? This is ridiculous, like too much of an ego, too much. So in this life, I think I had to have something. If I would have chose me, then I would, do what I want to make me look as good or as
Oh,
bad.
okay. I see
But
what you're
if
saying. Oh,
but
okay.
because I wasn't given that choice, I have to feel the insecurities and stuff like that, and maybe be able to learn the lesson. Or maybe it's
Wow.
because I felt that way. I'm good. I look great. So I mean, I have my eyes, but that's about it. Because literally, I know my nose is a little longer and my chin too in this life.
Mhm.
I think my general shape is pretty similar, like just the eyes though for sure. But
Wow. Okay. I didn't even think about that. You're totally right, And it
yeah,
kind of makes sense that a lot of but that also kind of confirms what, people are saying about maybe the ascended masters having more control of what they can do and who they are and stuff, because it's like you at that point, because remember we all are kind of at that point in a way, like an aspect of us is there. So when you're at that point of evolution, spiritual evolution, you don't have all these little ego trips and things like that, whatever. So you
yeah,
can come in anybody. You can come in as a, paraplegic and, this or that. The quote unquote worst case scenario, and you'll still be able to get through the life without, too much turmoil. But it's when
yeah,
we have all these hangups and we have all these insecurities or this or that, whatever, that it's necessary, literally necessary for it to be picked so that we can learn the lesson.
yeah.
So it was to learn a lesson to some extent, is what you're saying.
That's what I think it was, to learn a
Wow.
lesson.
I
Yeah.
kept feeling like you
Yeah.
were maybe stuck or maybe tied, and this is just my own thought, into that previous ego,
Yeah.
much more than maybe the average soul that might have been able to drop that and go back to the actual soul sense, like the real us or real you.
Yeah.
And usually at that point too, like as time passes, and it sounds like this happened for you anyway, you started to remember things, you started to get more information or knowledge, but again, you were so focused on trying to get back or whatever that you weren't really paying attention to that. So
Hmm.
do you feel like you had reached a point where you had all knowledge or all like universal understanding?
No. Yeah. So I don't even remotely claim to know everything or have all knowledge. I don't even think at one point I did while I was up there. I think I was just so focused on what happened in that previous life and then what's happening in this future life, especially when I found out it was me. I'm like, what? Yeah, I had no idea. I'm literally like,
Hmm.
oh, you want me to watch a movie? Okay, I'm watching a movie. And as it progressed, it just seemed like somebody else until I got emotional, like, oh man, he's cheating on her too. Oh my God, I know what you're feeling. And just feeling that. And then it became like a dream, like I was her and I was going through it. And like that's when I became one with that person until they pushed me out of it. And I was like, oh my God, I thought that was me for a second. And I'm so glad to be here. And they
Yeah.
looked at me like, because that is you. Like, you know what I mean?
And that's what's so freaky about this. Like like we can move our conscious into different things. Like there are people who have said they were able to move their conscious into a rock, like we
Yeah.
can literally move our conscious into anything. And when people have the life review, there are times that they are able to go, and we'll go back to this because this is very important, the whole forgiveness thing. You can go into another being and see from their perspective how they responded to something that you did. So it's like so freaky for you to see yourself in a body that's not yours, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
And you even at one point were just like, that's not me. You literally said that's not me, and like that's not even my type. So it's like
Yeah.
what part of us stays the same and what part changes? Because clearly even you looking at your future life, you're just like, I wouldn't do that. You said
Yeah.
it two times. At one point you said that wasn't your type, and then at one point you said, I don't smoke weed, so like why what is up with this? Like you
Yeah.
was just confused. So it's like a whole nother personality,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
and and so it just really makes me wonder, where is the line, like where is the line between who the soul is and then who all the different personalities are, the different egos or bodies or beings that we become.
Well,
What changes that?
I have listened to Joe Dispenza a lot, and he talks about how the human body becomes habitual and things. So sometimes we're fighting the animal, the actual human being.
Oh.
Um, like, I have a food addiction, honestly, right now, but like in my last life, heck no, I didn't. I had a fitness addiction.
Mhm.
Um, so that might be also why I have some struggles, but like I really only struggled after having children, and it's not like a terrible thing anyway. I can discipline myself, but I'm just saying I'm struggling with the human side. But back when I was with my ex, I literally remember fighting myself. Um, I love him. He's the father of my kids. I want to make things work. That's like my Angie avatar. But my other self, my actual higher self, was like, "What are you doing with this guy? It's clear. It's it. What are you doing? Stop. Just leave." And I'm like, "No, I mean, is that a demon talking to me?" Like seriously, I was having problems.
Oh my God. But that
So
that is that is so, I mean, because I just, again, I love your story because of that, because it's like literally like if we could watch our life, if I could meet my higher self, look at my life, that I've lived so far and will live, whatever, probably looking at it like as a soap opera, like, what is she doing? Why is she doing that? Like we all have that response, but at the
yeah,
same time, when you're in it is totally different. Totally
yeah,
different when you're in it, and you
yes.
lose your remembrance of who you actually are. So
Hmm.
it's just the nature of the beast. And you're so right, because then it's like epigenetics and your DNA and what's going on in the whole line of your this family, right? Because again, you went into a whole nother line. You
Yes,
came in, and I wanted to mention that you mentioned that you don't really know anybody from this current life.
right,
Like it's not
right.
people that it might be a whole new soul group that you're interacting with.
He
um
actually told me that it would be a new family. So I said,
wow.
okay. Because I said, well, I know anybody. It's like, oh, well, it's me and I'm going to a new life. Do I have any of my friends? Will I know anybody? And he said, you're going into a whole new family. And I said, okay.
Wow, that is
Mm-hmm.
that was news to me, because they
Mm-hmm.
try to make it seem like, and not to say that maybe it's just some lives where you really are kind of just out there with, we're all family no matter what, but just not your soul group, not the people you've had experiences with before. But now that you have had experiences with them, if you have future lives, and it'd be like, oh yeah, I remember so and so. That was my
Oh,
mother or my
yeah.
father. You
Well,
know.
here's another thing too. I found this out a couple years ago, or yeah, I think it was 2 years ago. I was working at my job, and sometimes I can see things 3D while I'm working. I just do it. I don't know how. But
Mhm.
I asked my guides, I said, why do I have such animosity with my mom now? Like at first, when I was a child, I liked her. We had a lot of issues because I had to live with her on and off for years. And I asked, why? Why do we have this problem? And so then all of a sudden I saw fields and I felt Rome, and I was like, I remember it was like a memory came right to me. I was a man wearing sandals. I caught fish. I was a person that had to run away from the Romans. I didn't like them. I was against them. I wanted to teach other people. I couldn't get caught though. And there was a hermit, and this hermit had this same exact limp walk that my mom has. And I was like, "Oh my gosh." And my mom doesn't really take care of herself physically in this life, and she definitely didn't in that life either. So that's a parallel. And we kind of identified. I became friends with this hermit. We talked. I would always leave. It was like one of those things where I'd bring fish that I caught that day. He or she, I didn't even know if it was a man or a woman, would cook it. Like that's how one kept. And they would cook it, and then I would leave. And I would, even though I wanted to be near them because I felt a connection, friendship, a genuine friendship. Um, and also I was sleeping in fields and stuff, whereas they had some kind of makeshift tent thing and a place for a fire all the time. Anyway, I came one of the times and I brought 3 fish. I was excited, and they seemed kind of grumpy. And I was just like, something's off. But I was like, you know, trying to make talk, but realizing, okay, after I'm done cooking my fish, I'm leaving. And then all of a sudden I heard clanking of stuff, and I turned, and there was the Roman soldiers, and they turned me in for money. And I said, "You were my friend. You betrayed me." And they gave me that look. Like my mom literally gives me the same exact look sometimes when she's so angry. No, a silence, like just the eyes. And I said, "How much money did you at least get for me? At least show me that much." And they quickly put their hand out and was like counting it. And I was like, "I pity you." And I was taken off. Now I don't know what happened after that. I don't know whether I was killed or imprisoned. I don't know. But
Wow.
that's why. That's why.
People, I mean, if we all knew more about our past lives, like a lot would make more sense. Like I've
Yeah.
heard a guy who said that he found that I don't know if it was through uh hypnotherapy, but he found that he and his son had killed him in a previous life. It was a business deal that went wrong, and he killed him. And for those two souls to be put back together in such a very close proximity and as father and son, it's like who's really who's making the choices here, but
Yeah, I
it's like
know.
but on the other hand, he kind of felt, he was like, I could see how if I had to learn to forgive him, then this would make sense. Like this is, I love my son, and they're working through it. But so let me just get to the forgiveness
Sure.
thing, because to me it was like something that even now I'm like thinking of, like, what does this mean? So when I'm talking about the forgiveness, when you were mentioning that there was a boy who liked you and you didn't like him, and then even the way you did it didn't seem like it was that, like
Yeah.
we don't all like other people, like it is like there's people I like who don't like me, and there's people who like me who I don't like them, and it's life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to think that every guy that's ever come, to you, and you're just like, sorry, no, and you even said sorry, you're like, sorry, no, can
I was
hold on.
like, yeah, I was like, sorry. But I think it was the way I did it too, that he just felt such rejection.
Yeah,
Because
so it's
I made the face, and I literally remember and turning away and being like, to my friends, like, why'd you make me do that?
Yeah,
You know?
but like it kind of comes back to the other person in the because I've heard this before too, where people go through life reviews and they see the things that they did, they just know they did wrong, and then they said the things that they didn't even realize that they had done, like it was just a slight that they didn't even understand, like I didn't know that that's how they took it. So I mean, you
Hmm.
have some people who are extra emotional, or
Yeah.
like see things, perceive it in another different way. So that's always concerned me, if there's really truth to that they can hold on to that, like put a grudge or whatever, or that hurt and that unforgiveness, which, if you're a Christian, like that's all they talk about, is how you shouldn't have any unforgiveness, because that in itself could be a reason to go to hell, according to some
Yeah.
groups, they believe that. So that unforgiveness could connect you into a future life. Like, I mean, even right now, like I have a neighbor who I promise you is stalking me, and I'm not interested, and I've tried not to be extra or whatever about it, but just very clear, like, leave me alone, please. I don't want to be bothered, you know? And this
Yeah.
happens for women and men all the time. It's just life.
Yeah.
So it's concerning if there's any truth to that. Like, I mean, do you really feel like that's the case? Like, what was your experience with that, you know?
Well, because he had developed hatred toward me and blamed me for every rejection after. And I think it's because he somehow twisted in his head that I told all the girls to always stay away from him or something. Because that's how I felt in that memory.
Mm.
Because I remember him asking a girl and literally, getting told, no, I'm sorry. And then literally thinking of me, it's because of you. Like he literally said that and
But that
thinking of
has
me.
nothing, you realize that has nothing to do with you. Like, this is just somebody who's seeing, like, maybe distorted or has like an actual problem, you know,
Yeah.
and is perceiving things from a very negative viewpoint. So like when I hear this, 'cause like I said, I it's not the first time I've heard this. And that's why I myself have been made sure to forgive, like even things I probably shouldn't forgive, I've forgiven, you know. But it's like, to me, it's concerning if there is truth to it, that the other person who, you know, could hold on to that grudge or that whatever, and then, you know, force another future life. Like, I just hope that there's some loophole and that's not true.
Well,
Because
I've heard forgiveness breaks ties. So from having seen that and observed it, I believe having unforgiveness creates ties.
mhm.
So yeah, I was oblivious, had no idea this kid even took it into his adulthood or however old he was when he was reading that Bible. I don't know. But I totally forgot about him.
Now here's the question. Now that brings up one other question. What if you so, because I mean, you have no control over him forgiving or not forgiving, or even
Hmm.
because like you said, you probably had no clue, like you said, what, I didn't know you took it that way, you know.
Yeah, no.
Now, had you thought, like, had you done a life review? People do that. They literally sit there and just kind of go through their life. I've heard it. So had you done that and kind of realized, okay, I don't know how he took that, and then just said, you know what, I just hope, I pray for forgiveness for, you know, anybody that I might have, you know, made feel blah blah blah.
Yeah,
You kind of just put out that blanket prayer or whatever. Do you feel like that would have, like, maybe protected you from having a future life with
I
him, whether or not he
I
forgave?
I definitely feel like it would have helped. I really do because I'm sending the energy out there, and if they're in any way able to receive it, they could
Hmm.
also reciprocate that forgiveness.
Hmm.
Or, I don't know if it would have been put off for a different life or anything like that, but I do believe that if I would, like, okay, for instance, if I feel like I can go back in time in my own mind and think, oh, I remember when I did this to that person, and say, I know I don't talk to you now. Please forgive me. I forgive you for everything you've done. That at least goes out into the ethers. So then in the very least you did your part. You gave forgiveness and let that situation go. And I
Hmm.
really do think that they may or may not, like, I really think that they would catch that in some way. Even their
Hmm.
guide might even, maybe you should forgive that person or whatever, you know because I don't know how he did it. I just know that he was reading his Bible and thought of me and said, I forgive you. And it was like I was released.
Hmm. Yeah.
So it was through reading his Bible. But I think if I say to everybody that I think I have offended in some way, even if I didn't mean to, or if I don't think I did, it's best to just secure yourself and say, I put forgiveness, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something to think about. You said that he said that in this current life that you had about 30 years, and clearly you passed that, right?
Yeah.
So do you feel like it's because I believe that there are exit points. I've heard this from other people, and I
Oh, yeah.
just feel that that's true. Do you feel like after you had learned that lesson that you could have, there might have been an experience where you could have exited, but you just said, I like it, I like my children, I like my life, I'm going to stay here, I'm going to do this, and then now you're just living on your, you know.
Yeah, because 2012, I had a heart attack while I was working at Northwestern Mutual.
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
I literally passed out and saw the galaxy. Like, first it went right up my jaw and crossed my neck, and it felt like electricity and down my arm, and I was like, oh my God, and my heart was like not pumping right. And then I
Hmm.
was starting to get dizzy and out of breath, and I'm like, oh my God, you know, how embarrassing. I'm in the office, and so I'm like, get to the bathroom, get to the bathroom. You know, I'd rather pass out in the bathroom than in the office. I don't know why I was thinking that, but um, I remember asking my friend Lorna, who was next to me. She had had a similar experience about a week prior. So I wanted to ask her, when that happened, how did you feel? And she said, "Are you all right?" Because I guess I went pale and I started passing out. She pinned me with her body between herself and the desk. And then the paramedics came and all that stuff. But I literally remember seeing a galaxy and then just coming back. So I don't
Wow.
know how far I went or whatever, or whether it was just my dream. I don't know. I don't claim to have left my body. I just know that that's what I saw. But why was I saying a heart attack and all?
The exit, like around 30, is when
Oh,
that
yeah.
happened. Yes.
Um, and actually, when I was 30 years old, the relationship between Will and I ended.
Hmm.
So I kind of wonder if Jesus meant that that would end and not my life. But I have ever since then, whenever I have a heart problem, because I still do, I've worn a monitor and they're just like, well, we're gonna just leave it for now. I'm like, okay, even though this is happening. Um, I have been ever since then saying, thank you for my life. I appreciate what you've done for me. Give me more time, please. And I promise I will do what you want me to do. Like you just put it in my heart or, let me be the answer to a prayer for somebody. I say these things.
Hmm.
So,
Wow. Awesome,
mhm.
awesome.
But I
All right.
also wanted to commit suicide. Huh. Talk about turning of tables. How I had the suicide demon and stuff. I think that was around the age of 30. That was when that stuff started. It
Whoa.
yeah. So I would say yes, maybe there were some exit points at that point. Like because I really was struggling with suicide between the ages of like 28 and I would say 32
Wow,
pretty
wow.
heavily. Yeah.
So it's like so my next question is kind of ties to this because on one hand it does sound like we do have free will because it sounds like you really could have at some point left either between the heart attack or through self harm or whatever. Um, but that you got through it, you got rid of those demons. You
Yeah.
realize that you're awesome and that we need you here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you figured all that out and you're here with us living the life. So the question is because he and I mean so many, like I'm telling you, so many NDEs where they are shown the future, like verbatim, like exactly how it happens. People ask the same question over and over again. If everything is kind of predestined to some extent to the point where you could be showing me like 30 years from now,
Hmm.
where is free will in all of this? Are we just in these
Well,
bodies playing like puppets or what's going on?
I kind of feel like in your current state, it's like a shadow. You know what it is, but you could move and it would change. I really feel that way because remember how I was shown the bedroom and the two girls and the smoking? I didn't catch it then, but it was like a replay of everything happening. I literally was shown that experience. So when I had it in real life, I was like, this is like a major deja vu. It's like I'm in heaven again, but I was on weed. So I know it sounds counterintuitive, but I mean, it was just like as if Jesus was talking to me and the demons are around me and what am I doing here? But instead of leaving at that point, remembering correctly that Jesus said that that man will hurt you, talking about the boyfriend, and it wasn't Will, it was somebody else. But um, instead of like leaving at that point, I kept playing along with it. And then it was when I was with, I mean, he showed me. He was showing me on that screen. If you continue down this life, this is what would happen. And I watched it a little bit, but it was so apart for me. And I was kind of like, I'm not going to do that. So I just was having a conversation with Jesus as this future possible life played on. But
Hmm.
it had nothing to do with me, in my opinion. And when I saw her in real life outside the apartment, my other friend, and I said, I got to go home. I think I cut that future possibility out because I made the decision to go home instead of continuing to smoke.
Wow.
Hmm.
Now do you because of this, do you believe that there are the multiple dimensions happening at one time, that there are other parts of you that went down these different roads? Or because I mean that kind of on one hand I believe that, but here's why I'm asking you this question is because then then what's the point of heaven and hell? Like if there's a version of you that did
Right.
go down that path of the worst case scenario, then she's she's doing something. But you didn't. So
Right.
like it just to me, and I don't think that we can figure it out. A lot of people say that the human mind can't even half understand what's happening with that,
Yeah.
because that really is mind-boggling, because it's like, okay, does each other version of you have heaven or hell, or going back and redoing it again, or like that's just a lot of convoluted mess
I
right there.
know. It messes me up too because I don't know, but I do know that I was at least shown a real life happening, and I literally just popped out of it and was like, "Well, that's not me anyway. Hi, Jesus." Whatever we were talking about at that moment. But he had said that if you continue down this path, you'll have to redo this life, and I was like, I'm not going to have anything to do with it. You don't need to worry about that. That's what
I
I
mean,
said to him.
that kind of confirms that there are multiple dimensions that we're living, because if they could show you that much, like literally you could be sitting there for 5, 10 minutes watching as she does this and that, then it's like, where is that? Where is that happening?
Yeah, I don't.
That is very
I
weird.
agree. Yeah, because literally it continued to play as like I was at first there, and that point where I popped out and said, "Oh, I'm not going to have anything to do with it. You don't need to worry about me." And he said, "If you continue,
Wow.
But it still played as we talked, but I just totally
Mm.
dismissed it. So I didn't get to see what was happening because I was just like, I'm not doing that. No
That's
big
not
deal.
me.
Yeah,
That's
not me
not
at all.
me.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. That is a key right there. You mentioned that you met your future children. I thought that was so cute.
Yeah.
Because you had the one that, like you said, your eldest, who was just kind of also like, I don't want to go back either. And
Yes,
and do you feel like she was in a similar situation where she's returning to learn a lesson that she didn't want to have to deal with again?
I do. The reason I say that is because like I have tried to do readings for her to see where her energy was, if she ever reincarnated or not. But I said I saw you as a baker in like the 14th century in like Germany or somewhere over there. And she was so stressed out. She had multiple children and she was like a motherly type figure. And she she's she actually went over to her friend's house. She doesn't cook or anything like that, but she said that makes sense because when I was at we were baking cookies or something and I kind of took over even though I had no idea what I was doing. I was like, that's weird because I didn't know that when I did the reading.
Mm-hmm.
And she always mothers the other two, my other two children. you know
Mm-hmm.
she'll take over. You can't have that, like, and take the phone away or whatever. You're not allowed that other
Mm-hmm.
cookie or whatever. She's just a mother type figure. But
Mm-hmm.
her personality, like both of all of them, they were both like coming up at me, you're my mom, all excited and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. That's them. That is totally how they are.
So it's their personality. You didn't feel like they were like new souls, and this is like, oh, the first time in there on Earth or something like that. You just felt like they were just excited to just be doing this,
Yeah.
kind of.
And I
Yeah.
don't know why I saw them as children either. Um, that that does make me wonder sometimes, like how come I saw them as my children? Maybe it's because that's how I could handle it on the other
Yeah.
side. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I don't know. Or maybe it's because that way I could recognize them later and help trigger my memory. I don't know.
I think it's that, because I've heard where people meet them a little older and they're like, who is that? Like, I mean, I think that makes perfect sense. I just want to say that because I've had, thank you to Angela for sharing with us. I really have put you through it, and you have been so, so, so very great about this. But I noticed in one of your previous interviews, you mentioned that April 9th is your birthday, and that
Yeah,
is coming up in 2 days. So I want to say happy birthday, happy pre-birthday.
thank
And
you.
at the end of these, I always ask people to, share like their Cash App or something like that, because you're sharing your life, you're sharing your knowledge and helping people with this video. So if anybody wants to support you,
So
we said a lot. This is like, I mean, I'm gonna have some time, really editing this, so God knows. But so if there's anybody, if there's any kind of services, because I know that you do have your natural gift, but you try to
mhm,
keep it on the, after your experience, keep it on the light side and make sure that it's positive and of the light.
yeah,
But you might be doing like, you like life coaching or
yeah.
spiritual coaching. So if you know, at some point have that, some kind of website or something that people can contact you for, you can mention it now, or we can put up a link. I just want to make sure that people know that you do this, like you do kind of, I guess,
Yeah,
readings, right?
I do like to do that, especially if somebody's lost and they aren't sure which way to go. If I get anything, I will tell you. Like, and I don't like, to me, it's making stuff up or whatever. That's bad stuff. I won't even remotely do it. If I'm blocked from seeing something, I will say, I'm sorry, I'm not sure. But I'm not going to lie and be like, I think you do this. You know, no, I, I will say what I'm actually seeing. But as of right now, I don't have any website or anything. I just am on Facebook, Angela Comfort, and or if they want me to do a question for them or anything like that, I'm totally willing to do that. Right now, I'm not collecting any money for any of that, but I don't want to, because like there have been times where I've done readings for people and I've been so dead on, and it took 3 hours of my time and I can't devote that kind of time.
Yes,
So
yes.
because I'm just doing it for free, I'll answer a few questions, and then if we're really connecting and they feel like donating or something, I can continue. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? But
yeah.
so as of right now, if they have any questions about what I've talked about or my pre-birth or any other spiritual things that I've had, I'm totally open. Angela Comfort on Facebook,
Hmm.
and um,
Okay.
yeah,
All right. And you've given us so much already just with this video. Like, we want to thank you so much. Thank you to our sister Angela. And I want to thank you so much, so, so much. You have no idea how incredibly beautiful your story is, how much information is in it. And it's definitely going to help us as we start to put this puzzle together and we all move forward to enlightenment. So we thank you so much, Angela. Thank you
thank
for
you.
with our millions of questions, and go
You're
rest,
fine.
go get something to eat, just chill. Thank you so much, okay?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.